You're listening to Season 6 of Three Angry Giant Fans and Jet Fan Podcast, brought to you by Rugged Uncle and Carolina Beer Temple. Join us each week as we go over news and notes of the Jets and Giants, give our pet peeves, and basically just gripe about our team's dismal performances as of late. Also go to our website, angryfootballfans.com, and download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We have a lot of fun doing this. We enjoy all of our fans. Go Jets and go Giants.
With the third pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Abdul Carter, defensive end, Penn State.
You know why they love it? Because if there is a type for the New York Giants, it's pass rusher, right? The franchise of Lawrence Taylor, they've got Kayvon Thibodeau on the team now, and now they've got another guy who made his reputation in college as a great pass rusher.
So that is the announcement of Abdul Carter. Welcome to the Giants. He's in the house. Guys, we got more pass rushers, and we're starting to build this team. And I will tell you why I'm optimistic as we go on tonight. But this is Season 6 of the Three Angry Giant Fans and the Jet Fan. We're down a man, Cardone. He's got technical difficulties. He's laptops in a car. He's in the process of moving. This guy can't figure out if he wants to be in North Carolina or South Carolina. He's moving back to North Carolina. So he's got a lot of stuff going on. So tonight it's just Scott, Giant Mike, and Angry Jets fan Novak in the house.
Well, his fantasy football name was the Chaos. That sounds like what he's got going on right now.
A lot of chaos happening there.
So the draft had a lot of drama. We're going to get into the Shedeur Sanders thing, but Giants and Jets, I thought both had solid drafts. I like the fact that the Giants are building a defensive line. It reminds me of the Super Bowl years that they had. And if you look at what the Steelers have done, so the Giants have a parallel now with Russell Wilson being a quarterback with the Giants, is that the Steelers made the playoffs last year basically by having a solid offensive line and a solid defensive line. Offensive line might need some work to get there, but it was better last year than it had been in previous years. And the defensive line now, with just the amount of bodies that they have there, they're able-bodied, and we'll talk about that when we go through all the draft picks. It's looking solid, and I think the Jets are doing the same thing on their offensive line.
Yeah, the Jets have a better offensive line than the Giants, no doubt. I mean, that's the Giants' offensive line. Just they had a huge improvement to shitty last year. That's how bad it's been. They probably weren't shitty. They were probably below average. It's probably more accurate. But yeah, the Jets have solved that problem, which it seems like the Giants have had for 2 decades.
Yeah, you guys you keep adding that defensive line, and remember that Jets team from 2 years ago, that defense was so great is because that line was so deep. And you just wear teams out if you just keep throwing people at them all the game long. You can rotate in and out, and if this might make Thibodeau a hell of a lot better by bringing Carter in, because I don't think he really had that guy on the other side that was going to take a little bit away from him. I think this is that defensive line is dirty. I mean, good luck going against that Giant team.
So before we get into everything else, let's give a shout out. So since this is Season 6, we don't really have a listener pool to go to. Let's give a shout out to Hello Cam Skenebo. 5'9", 219 pounds. He's from Rio Lindo, California. He rushed in his senior year in high school for 3,550 yards and 42 touchdowns in a season. So think about that. That's probably in a high school season, 10 games at the most.
Yeah.
So
those are big numbers.
That's averaging 350 yards and 4.2 touchdowns a game. He received, by the way, even after that season, no scholarship offers for an FBS school. So this man who runs with wild abandon. I didn't know much about Arizona State, but I watched him at Arizona State, and the games that I watched him, I always was like, Jesus, this guy's a monster. And, we'll talk about him as we go through the Giants, but I think there's a lot of optimism about Scatterbo and what the dynamic he brings to the Giants. So why don't you just give a call out?
Yeah, the Giants are better when we have a bruiser at running back. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if you guys caught where his mom said when he was like 8 years old, he used to put on his older brother's shoulder pads and go out and hit telephone poles. Like that's the kind of thing I love to hear right there. Give me more of that.
This guy hasn't even put on Giant Blue, and he's a fan favorite already.
Oh yeah.
You know he's gonna be too, right? He is gonna be beloved by Giant fans. This is old school Giant football. You guys are going a little bit back to where you should be, which is probably good to see from your perspective.
Absolutely.
So one of the things, we obviously we're going to get into it, and the whole football world has, and it's been really polarizing. Some of the takes on this. I have my take. We can all give our take on this. But Shedeur Sanders, it turned into a saga. Clearly teams looked at him as a backup, and in that backup role, you don't want a distraction. He had terrible interviews reportedly. Mel Kiper had a meltdown over this. The guy constructed his own draft room that said legendary all over the place in it, and people are wondering why he might not have been picked high. And someone said that this is the first time they've ever seen this happen, and that's bullshit. There's people every year who are projected to go in the first round who slide for some reason or another. I remember, I think it was Malik Willis a couple of years ago. People were talking about him as a top 5 quarterback. He went in the third round. And this kind of thing is going to happen more often than not. And it ends up being an echo chamber for the media. They pick a guy, they place him when he's not picked there where they placed him. It's not their fault. It's the NFL's fault for not picking the guy in the right place. And there's a lot of things that went into the Shedeur Sanders thing. But I'll turn it over to you guys because I just think there's this thing's blowing up, and I think we're talking about a quarterback who's going to be a career backup at best.
I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, Novak.
No, I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, he's not that good. I mean, he's not that good. I mean, and I think that was evident. I mean, if he was good, if his talents were there, someone would have taken him. But so he's not that good. On top of the fact, he's a distraction. I mean,
Yeah.
He built his own draft room called Legendary. Are you kidding me? He hasn't played it down in the league. So this is exactly once you'll deal with that drama for a starter. But once you fall into backup category in round 2, round 3, no one wants to put up with that. Look, I dealt with it with the Dick for 2 years. I mean, you're fine. You put up with it. He's a Hall of Famer. I don't want that, as my backup quarterback. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I was surprised. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely, I was shocked. But when you start really thinking about it as it was going on, you're like, oh, it makes sense. Why would you want that?
Yeah. I think that's the take. I mean, the take on this is not. I'll address the issue of like Ryan Clark, I think, and Stephen A. Smith, who were talking about some sort of collusion. Now, I mean, they know better. That's irresponsible. They absolutely know better. Shedeur Sanders didn't get taught a lesson by the NFL. This is 32 individual organizations. They're not colluding. They're not because someone would break the deal. If he was that good, like Jerry Jones would be like, fuck it, get him. It would, I mean, because it's all about winning. They're not about, well, let's all get together and teach this random kid a lesson. And if they all know he's coming to the NFL anyway, and if he's going to be that good, he'll prove himself and he'll be that good. It doesn't make any sense. What does make sense is what Novak just said, is that, look, if Shedeur had college numbers like Lamar Jackson or like Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, then people would say, you know what? I don't care about the distractions that much. We want to win football games, but he didn't. He looks like he could be a fairly decent NFL quarterback who may have to start as a backup, but it's not worth it. It's just not worth what comes with him. Now, so there was no collusion to teach the kid a lesson. Now, did the kid learn a lesson from what happened to him? I don't know. I kind of hope so, but probably not. No. But there was no intention to teach him a lesson. It was about doing what's best for 32 teams. And I thought that, what the Browns did in round 5, clearly they looked at the way things were laying out. They said, you know what, round 5 is right for this guy. It's time. And they went and did it. And we'll see where it all goes. I mean, he's drafted to a team that already has a crowded quarterback room, but I don't know that any of them are that good. So if, this will all be forgotten if Shedeur goes in there and wins a starting job and comes out and plays pretty well. If he can't win the starting job out of that group of quarterbacks who are on the Cleveland's roster, then we know what we know.
Including a draft pick that was picked ahead of him.
Yeah, a pick from earlier in the draft. It's kind of a weird dynamic because I do think Shedeur Sanders is probably a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. But so it's a kind of a weird dynamic the way that fell out. They're at least close. But the Browns have already, I don't know if you guys saw, but Deion came out today and said, I want to be a part of his first meeting with the team. Like, this is exactly what teams were afraid of. It's why he went in the 5th round, because of, who's Deion? I want to be a part of the first meeting because, I just want to make sure, I want to know what's going on in there. I want to know what they're thinking. Shedeur doesn't take crap from any other quarterback, or, it's like, this is it. This is exactly what teams were afraid of.
Well, and the thing that was most damning to me was that interview where he said, I turned around Jackson State, I turned around Colorado, on top of the fact not every NFL team feels the need to be turned around, dude.
Yeah.
There are some, sure, but you're not Michael Jordan. You're not LeBron James. You're not, Tom Brady. I mean, you're not that good that you yourself are going to turn around an organization. And when you say stuff like that, any organization is going to say he thinks he's better than this organization because he feels the need to turn us around. Well,
he's not LeBron, he's Bronny.
Kinda.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a very good analogy. Yes, he kind of is. So look, at one point I kind of felt bad for him, but I really didn't, because the way he handled himself prior to that and in the interviews, and the way he carries himself with the big money sign and the legendary and all this, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you get what you pay for.
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, whenever something like this happens, there's always the underlying tone that it happens because of racism. Quinn Ewers dropped in the draft. Is anyone saying it's because of racism that he dropped? No, it's because these guys, when you look at their tape, both of them have mediocre arms, and in Shedeur's case, he's not very mobile. So he's a pocket quarterback, which is going out of style, with an arm that's pedestrian. And those kind of guys are going to be backups. Maybe he could rise above, but that's part of the problem that you're seeing. And if it was a problem with racism, you wouldn't have Cam Ward going number 1 and being celebrated.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have Travis Hunter, his teammate, going number 2, who clearly NFL teams believe he was the reason that the offense was so successful and Colorado was so successful, not necessarily Shedeur. So, all the other stuff ends up being noise, and it gets annoying because you throw out accusations, and the Giants are a team that gets caught in it because the Giants traded up for Jackson Dart, and people are like, well, you should have traded up and gotten Shedeur Sanders. Why?
Really,
and you're talking,
didn't need to.
And you're talking about a team right now with 2 sitting black quarterbacks on their roster choosing Dart. So it's not like they're doing this because of race or anything.
Yeah. I mean, no one would have been the wiser. The Giants traded up into that spot and picked Shedeur. Everyone would have just assumed that he was going to be picked soon anyway, and no one would be the wiser. The Giants not picking him and then him lasting till round 5, again, kind of proves that the Giants made the right decision there. And I think after the interview with Dable, I personally believe that Shedeur Sanders was not even on our draft board.
No.
And I think there's a lot of teams that he wasn't on the draft board at all.
If he treated an interview that poorly, and there's reports that he treated at least 2 interviews that poorly, I'm assuming that any interaction he had with an NFL team was not that great. And you saw Cleveland, even when they picked him, there was not overwhelming excitement in that draft room. There were a couple guys doing the golf clap like this. No one's pumping their fists and going, we got our next Tom Brady in the 5th round.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we could put the Shedeur Sanders thing to bed. I think because of the Dion hype machine, that's part of the reason we're having this conversation and everyone's having the conversation. They built this kid up to be much better than he really was. And again, I mean, we talked about it on the show numerous times last year. And Colorado did do decently last year, but they still are a mediocre team in a lower division in the in the college football. Jackson Dart is from Ole Miss. He plays in the SEC. And you can't overlook that pedigree sometimes.
No.
You can't. You can't.
He also played for USC.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, he different organizations, was very successful there, and the only reason he transferred is because Lincoln Riley came there, and he was going to bring Caleb Williams over. So yeah, totally.
And he had a good mentor. Didn't he go to high school with another good quarterback?
Damn it, you were stealing my thunder. So in case anyone listening does not know this, he went to the same high school as another famed New York #2 quarterback, Mr. Zach Wilson. So and they
right,
both
right in
have
the footsteps.
They both have very, I'll call them popular mothers, who are big on social media. So you guys are going through exactly what I went through about 3 years ago. So or 4 years ago. So let's see how this goes.
I hope it ends the same. That's yeah. I think the Dion hype machine, it fooled a lot of people. It certainly fooled the media. It fooled millions of fans, but it didn't fool one NFL GM.
Nope.
Not one.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And
when
in
you
fact,
have to
it worked against his son.
Yes, it did.
And when you
Really
have to make every team pay because every team passed on you multiple times, including the team that picked you, he's gonna have to shiv Dylan Gabriel in the locker room just to move up
he got
charts.
passed up by a team 3 times that their only quarterback on the roster is Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So speaking of the drafts and our team's drafts, so the Giants first rounder Abdul Carter, defensive edge, I guess, rusher from Penn State. Then they traded back up into the first round to get Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, quarterback, and then third round pick, guy who's going to be a very interesting prospect, Darius Alexander. He's a defensive tackle from Toledo. He just takes up space a lot like Leonard Williams did. He may not be at that level right now, but on that defensive line where you add depth, he's going to be very valuable in the run support. Then they picked Cam Scatabo, running back from Arizona State. Then they went Marcus Mabau, offensive guard from Purdue. So same school as Tyrone Tracy last year. And then they didn't pick again till the 7th round, and they had 2 projects here. So Thomas Fadone II, tight end from Nebraska, once was rated as high as Brock Bowers, but then he tore his ACL 2 times. And then they got Corey Black, a cornerback from Oklahoma State, as their last pick in the 7th round. So before we give a synopsis of that, I'll go through the Jets picks too. So the Jets, unspectacular draft pick in the first round, but a very solid pick, and I think one that was probably the best pick they could have made. Armand Mabou from Missouri, offensive tackle. And then in the 2nd round, they went for a tight end. They went for Mason Tyler out of LSU. And then 3rd round, they went for Azaria Thomas, cornerback from Florida State. Then their next pick was Arian Smith, a wide receiver from Georgia, who I very much liked when I watched him play last year. Then they went and got Malachi Moore, defensive back from Bama. And then they picked 2 defensive linemen from Miami, so from the U. So Francisco Mavagoa and Tyler Behrens. And I'll say this, whoever their scout is in the South must be getting paid a ton.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the only direction they went.
That's kept it in the South.
Yep.
So before we get to the Giants, Novak, your thoughts on the Jets picks? Very solid draft, I thought.
Yeah, I think so too.
I thought very solid. And look, I think, I as you know, was not a big fan of the hiring of Aaron Glenn because I didn't want a first-time coach. But what I think that Aaron Glenn is trying to do, and you saw how he handled the dick. I know that sounds weird, but we all know what that means. he is doing, like you said, kind of unspectacular. It's exactly what he wants. He wants to keep the Jets under the radar. Nothing crazy and wild. And the Justin Fields thing is a big thing to the four of us because we know Justin Fields sucks. But to the rest of the world, it's like, okay, not a big deal. Let's give it a shot. Let's try this thing. Maybe he's okay.
Right.
But very unspectacular, I would say. Nothing crazy. I loved two of the picks here. The first one, fine. I loved Marcus Taylor, the son of Jason Taylor, as the tight end in the second round. I wanted a tight end really badly because we have no one really other than Jeremy Ruckert. So I thought that was a great pick. What I also liked is that he took players from established programs, which I loved. Alabama, Miami, LSU. So nothing that was really out of the ordinary. Loved that. The only pick I didn't like, and Scott liked it, was the one I didn't like, was the wide receiver from Georgia, because, they're doing that whole music and I'm all excited and they pick this guy and I know nothing about this guy. And they go, he really struggles with catching the ball. I'm going, what? He's a wide receiver. That's the number one thing he's supposed to do. I don't care how fast he is. He struggles with catching the ball. And we've got a quarterback that can't throw. So, like, a quarterback that can't throw, throwing to a guy that can't catch, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. This guy's going to be on special teams and running back kicks. What a waste of a pick. So I wasn't thrilled with that. But for the rest of it, you know what? I was pretty pleased, like I said. And I love what Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are trying to do here. And this offensive line, Mike has been preaching offensive line play since as long as I can remember. I do think, and I'm not just throwing, platitudes out there, but you've got this guy, Membo, you've got Fashanu from last year, two bookend tackles, 24 years old, hopefully for the next 10 years. And then you add in Tittman, Vera Tucker, and Simpson. Could be one of the best offensive line in the league, and we have not one player over 28 years old. So that is very exciting for me. And then you add in Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis, their other third running back, behind that line. And then, of course, Justin Fields. Okay, fine. But, I'm thrilled with what they've done. If I could just take the Justin Fields thing and throw that out, I would be really excited about this year. But that is just a black cloud that's hanging over this franchise for me. But not anyone else, apparently.
So safe to say you're not taking the Georgia receiver in fantasy then? You're not going to be picking him up?
Yeah. Let me go get a guy that can't catch.
He could be another John.
He led the Power 4 in drops. That's the stat I saw. Now, Scott, I don't know why you like this guy, but I don't know. I mean, he apparently can catch.
He could be another John Ross, a fast guy who can't catch. It's always good to have.
Ronaldo Nehemiah.
When they were saying that on TV, I started chuckling, and I said to my wife, I said, "Hey, the Jets just drafted a wide receiver who can't catch." And then 10 seconds later, my phone buzzes, and it's Novak. Well, the Jets just got a receiver who can't catch.
Catching from a guy that can't throw.
So I was setting that up for Novak.
I know. I figured you were.
But I'll tell you what I liked about the Giants draft, and the Giants have flip-flopped over the years. There was a time period where they were going for measurable guys, and all they were doing is picking these guys on measurables. And then they actually went to a point in time when they were just picking team captains. And that was great, except for these guys were very smart and leader-like, but they had terrible measurables. So what I think about this class when I see this play out, and it's more important, I think, in the NIL era. And as we talked about Shedeur Sanders, I think this comes down to it. The Giants got a roster of players who like to play football, and they live to play football. I mean, Novak talked about when we were doing the intro and talk about Cam Scatabo. If you don't like a guy who runs through people and, when he's a kid, he runs through telephone poles and shit like that. I mean, that's football. That's football. He's going to be that old school, you're hoping for like a Julian Edelman, guys like this, just guys that may not be great on measurables, but bring heart to the game. Now, you can't have a whole team like that. But what I see the Giants doing with the backfield now is very similar to the Lions. The Lions have, a pass catching back, and they have a bruiser in David Montgomery. Well, what the Giants do now is they have Tracy as a very versatile back, and they could bring Scatabo in as the short yardage guy or a guy that they need to, as a change of pace. Jackson Dart, not his measurables aren't all off the charts. He's got a very strong arm, but apparently he's a leader. He helped recruit players. Abdul Carter, the guy just wants to get out on the football field. He's a lot like Micah Parsons was. You can't really complain about those type of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good analysis, Scott. I agree. I agree with that. I hadn't really put all that together, but yeah, that's really good analysis. For me, of course, like no one who's listened to the pod for the last year can have any doubt that I love this draft. I mean, this is sort of the dream scenario for me, going way back to the middle of last year or so. Back then, we were hoping to get Travis Hunter and then Dart in the second round, which looked like that was a very possible thing as this draft got closer, as we predicted would happen. Dart became a guy you probably weren't going to get in the second round. Maybe the way it played out, you still could have, especially since we did have the first pick of the second round. But I like that the Giants said, this is our guy. This is the guy we want. We're not going to risk it. I agreed with Novak's analysis on draft night. I think that the Rams wanted him. And I think that them trading out of that spot immediately after the Giants took Dart tells you that was their plan. So I think we got him in the last possible position we could get him in. And yeah, man, that's what I wanted. I wanted to come out of this draft with an elite defensive player at number 3 in Jackson Dart. And here we are. So, I don't even really care what happened with the rest of the draft. I do love the Scatabo pick. And I do like, I never heard of the other D tackle that we got, but I did some homework on him after we drafted him. Kind of looks like a beast. I think that was probably a guy who you could queue up as a rookie and start putting him in the rotation. Yeah, loved it. Really did. Now, I'm not saying, as we talk about all the time on here, Dart could be a complete flop, but you took your shot. You took your shot, man. You never know. And if the past NFL, especially with high first round quarterbacks, if they've ever taught us anything, you really realistically have maybe a 40% shot of that working out.
And Dart doesn't have to start day one. He comes in, he's got Russell Wilson and Winston there,
Yep. So we'll flip the coin and hopefully it lands up heads and we'll go from there. But yeah, I can't nitpick this draft at all. I think it was well done. As I mentioned earlier, I would have hated if Sanders went at the end of the first round or early in the second and ended up being really good. That would bother me. But the fact that he stayed out there all the way to the 5th round, I don't really give a shit about his career now. He's in the AFC. He's on the Browns. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me. Every team passed on him, so the Giants won't look foolish for passing on him. So I'm sure people will still reference us. But
if there was one, go ahead.
Real quick, I just wanted to say there's also something that the Giants did. I think that people don't talk about enough is that, some people will say they could have waited and still gotten Dart in the second round. And I think that may be the case, but it sends a message when they go into the first round and they give up picks to get the guy. They're saying, this is the guy we wanted. This is how much we wanted him. And I think that's a very good message for a team like the Giants that have been so shitty for so many years to actually say, like, we have conviction. This is our guy. I don't care what we gave up. We're going into the first round. We're giving up a second round pick and we're going to get him. And so I think because if you get him in the second round, I think it's like, was it the right choice? Did they really want this guy, or we'll just take, whoever comes to us type thing?
Did he just fall to them? Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's such a different message when you do that. The Jets did that with Sanchez a bunch of years ago, and I loved it at the time. I think people mock Sanchez, but at the same time, he got to 2 AFC championships. He wasn't terrible, but you have conviction, and I think that's what the Giants finally did.
Well, what I thought was funny, Mike and I were talking about this pre-pod, but where Jackson Dart went to the team that he went to completely changed some of the perception of what was out there for him. Like before the draft, I had heard some comparisons to guys like Justin Herbert. I saw some people say, hey, he could be a Justin Herbert type. He's a leader, this, that, and the other thing. As soon as the Giants pick him, his comps all of a sudden become Drew Lock and Daniel Jones. And it's like, we talk about the media being lazy all the time. Well, there's nothing more lazier than picking the two guys in the quarterback room before Jackson Dart gets there and saying that's the comp, because I don't think Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are similar players at all.
No, but really, I mean, they're just, it's not even close, really. It's lazy. It's, again, these talking heads on draft night, just like what happens to them during the season sometimes, they were embarrassed by Shedeur Sanders. As much as Shedeur was embarrassed, they were embarrassed that they had him, especially Mel Kiper had him as the best quarterback in the class. And they get embarrassed. And did you guys hear Mel Kiper's rant where he's like, these teams don't know what they're doing? I do. Did you hear him say that? Like, that's crazy.
I lost a little respect for him this year because I usually like him. But this year I was like, he was way off base.
Yeah.
Way off base.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, just tell me right now, if the Saints jumped up there and picked Dart in that same position, if anyone would have said, he's a Daniel Jones, he's a Drew Lock, nobody would have said that. It was totally based on the team that took him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll have more to say about the media and our pet peeves, but you guys have any thoughts about the other teams' drafts? Do you see any winners or losers or head scratchers? I didn't see the bonehead pick as normally taken by the Raiders, although the Raiders did a couple reaches. But it seemed like every time I looked up, the Browns and the Raiders were picking players.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. The Raiders how many picks did they have? Like 40? I mean, every time I checked in, because I didn't watch the whole thing. I mean, tell me anyone out there watches all 7 rounds. But every time I checked in, the Raiders were on the clock. I'm like, what is happening? No. I did take some notes on that. I thought there were some teams that had really nice drafts. The Patriots, sadly, I thought had a really good one. They filled a lot of holes. I think they got some players, later rounds that probably, should have gone earlier, that type of thing. The Ravens, every year they do. I feel like they do really that. I love their second round pick, this guy Mike Green from Marshall, who I've watched because he played against App State and other schools that I watch. He's incredible. Remember that name, Mike Green, which is really not a very easy name to remember. It's so boring, but nonetheless, I thought the Cowboys did really well this year because they took a guy again that I know, ECU, this guy Revel Jr., who should have been a first-round draft pick in the 3rd round. I love their first-round draft pick too. But you know what I found interesting this year more than any other is that it reminded me how much of a fucking copycat league the NFL is, because they drafted like they're trying to become the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. And last year it was all about offense. This year it was all like, let's do what the Eagles did. They won a Super Bowl. Let's try to match what they do. Let's go defense and offensive line. And like, it's just, I hate how the NFL just can't have any originality. They got to follow the most, the shiniest object in the league. So that's kind of what I took from this draft personally.
Yeah, unfortunately, I really like the Eagles draft. I think the Jihad Campbell from Alabama, it was not the 31st best player in this league. He's probably in the top 10. And there, I saw it coming. I saw it from a mile away, that pick coming. And sure enough, they traded up one spot, which confused me a little bit right there. Did they just have a draft pick they wanted to throw away? I don't understand why they moved up one spot. I guess, afraid of obviously someone else trading up into that slot. But they, of course, added more defensive line. Their draft stood out to me a little bit. I like some of the individual players the Browns took. I mean, they're going to hit on some, right? They had so many picks, but the Browns before Sanders, I thought were doing a pretty good job, which is different from most years. But they, they're still, I don't know what they're doing with the quarterback room there. I have no idea.
What are you going to do in the preseason? Who are you going to play?
Yeah,
you got Sanders, you got Gabriel, you've got Pickett, you've got, wow,
Flacco.
You got the massage guy. Like, how many guys are going to get a snap in there?
If they're really smart and they've done, other teams have done things like this in the past, they'll play a lot of Sanders and try to trade him. They'll put him in very favorable situations, play him a lot, and then as the QB starts getting hurt,
Yep.
You want Shedeur Sanders?
You want to take him off our hands, please?
Yeah.
Because Dion is calling every day saying how to play his kid.
You guys mentioned both the Cowboys and the Eagles, and I hate the fact that they both picked players that I wanted to see develop. One of them is Kyle McCord, the quarterback from Syracuse. I think he's going to be a dark horse to be a good quarterback in this league, at least a solid backup. And then the other guy is Phil Maffa, who's a running back from Clemson. He went to the Cowboys. So one went to the Eagles, one went to the Cowboys. Not a fan of that. So I to me, it's way too early to decide who's winners and losers. I always hate when they do that. I thought it was ridiculous that they were grading players immediately after they were picked on Yahoo. And I have another gripe with Yahoo, which I'll get to in just a second with the pet peeves. But how do you know what these guys are doing? I mean, Jackson Dart was one of the few players in the first round that was a D pick by Yahoo. So again, to Mike's point, if he was picked by the Saints, probably he's an A+. Goes to the Giants, and all of a sudden he's on the Giants, so it's got to be a D pick. This kind of stuff happens all the time.
Well, I saw the NFL Network had their reviews. They didn't have one team below a B. So everyone did a great job.
Great job, everybody.
Everyone. There was one B, and it was like the Commanders. Everyone else got high grades, A's, A-, B+. Like, where are the days when someone's getting an F? Like, what the hell were they doing?
The Raiders always got an F. Picked a kicker in the first round, a punter in the second, F.
Yeah.
So, guys, anything else before we go to pet peeves?
Do you want to do the recap of last year now, or do you want to do it after pet peeves?
No, you could do it now. I think that would be good. By the way, I do want.
I might develop a pet peeve out of this.
Let me before that make a comment because we haven't talked. We talked about our sponsors in the opening on the opening pre-recorded one, but we have two sponsors this year. We have Rugged Uncle, and we also have the Carolina Beer Temple. And the Carolina Beer Temple has moved from their location last year to a facility that is expansive. It's a great layout.
Awesome.
We're planning on doing another live show there, so maybe multiple ones. So guys, just keep that on the calendar. We'll give you more info as it gets closer. But Carolina Beer Temple, go and check it out in Matthews, North Carolina. Great new location.
It's really great, and I'll say that we are going to do the live pod there, and it's so big that we'll be able to do it inside in the air conditioning, unlike last year when we were sweating bullets out there. So we're excited for that.
I like it outside. You could drop an F-bomb and the whole street hears it.
Yeah, we could have kids running in front of us, yelling "alcohol!"
Yay, alcohol!
That was last year. So to segue, I watched last year's draft recap pod, and I did the draft recap pod last year's pod for the previous year. So I'm going to do it again this year. Maybe this will be a an annual thing. But what I will say is, after having watched that, and I texted you guys this, I have 2 points. One, I think we were very funny. It was so anyone listening to this, listen to last year's one. It's really funny. But 2, we suck at predicting things. All of us, especially me, Mike, and Scott. Cardone really didn't jump into the fray as far as predicting things, but we were like not even at the Mendoza line for percentage of hits on our predictions. It's pretty pathetic when I go through and read this to you guys. So
I'm excited.
I have one glaringly good one. I just want that noted.
You do have one. You're the reason we got to 200. So to start the pod off, we went to a very funny discussion about Jack's Bistro and the Regal Beagle. Is how we started off. How we got into it is a long story, but that was about a 20-minute conversation, it seemed, about Three's Company. Good. So that was good. And Mike started off by his review of the draft was that he is so glad the Giants didn't trade for Drake May, because in 8 to 10 years, they're going to be thanking God that they never got Drake May. That was your response to that?
Really? That surprised me. I ended up liking Drake May a little bit. I don't remember that.
Well, you said that you liked him. He was your favorite quarterback, but you said you were glad that the Giants didn't give all the picks to get him, was your response there.
Gotcha.
You were all very pissed. You, Cardone, and Mike were very pissed about Neighbors being called a thug after the Giants picked him, but prior to that, he was an all-world wide receiver. So that was a big topic of discussion. Cardone loved the pick of Neighbors, but here's the funny one. He says, "Why the fuck do we still have Darius Slayton on the roster?"
And he's still there.
Still here, and he got a contract extension this year. So there was that. All three of you questioned, and you did not like the pick of Phillips. And you didn't understand the Tracy. You liked the Tracy pick, but you thought he was just a return guy. So he turned into something that, was more than what you would have thought. You were all mad that the Giants were the only team in the NFL to not draft an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman in that draft, so that you were confused by that. Scott spent an inordinate amount of time defending Daniel Jones. And he said 4 of those 6 quarterbacks in the first round will be busts. That was Mike only liked Drake May, thought all the rest of them were going to suck. Cardone liked none of them. He said, I don't think any of them are any good. So there was that. Scott did say, however, he jumped in and he said, guys, I think, as much as I hate to admit it, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a star. And he basically said he's going to be the next great quarterback out of that draft. So looks as though Scott might be right there.
Might have hit on something there.
I, like a moron, said that I loved the Jordan Travis pick, and I loved Corley, who's the guy that dropped the ball with his one hand before he went into the end zone for the Jets. That was my favorite pick, so obviously I was wrong there. So I'm an idiot. We all were pissed off about the NFL becoming very offensive-minded. So that was a big theme of the podcast there. Scott said, this is a funny line. Scott said, I want to see a 14-7 game. Not how the Giants and Jets play a 14-7 game. I want to see 14-7 game.
That's a great line.
It was a great line. Mike was I got a couple more points. Mike was really pissed about the Commanders getting Sanders from Washington. You said that was the steal of the draft. Now, the one thing we did, which I thought was interesting, Cardone made a comment about he thought we would get a hair replacement sponsor. But little did he know that, a few months later, we would actually get a hair product sponsor. So he might have actually called something.
He's on it a little bit, yeah.
Scott said his kids burned their Will Shipley jerseys. So that was interesting. We all killed Dion for being an ass. And here's my bad prediction. I went on a rant and was screaming, saying that Colorado would not win more than 3 games this year. So I was wrong there, as they won 9. So didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Mike told a funny story about a guy at a bar he was at losing his mind over every pick.
Yeah, that guy.
But the best line of all, Scott, who never gets angry, because I watched it on YouTube, got really angry. And he was going, who the hell is this media to say the Giants are going to pick 3rd next year? They don't even know what's going to happen. And on top of it, the Commanders are going to be picking in the teens or the 20s. These idiots know nothing. So coincidentally, the Giants picked 3rd and the Redskins or the Commanders picked in the 20s.
29th.
That's right.
The reason I know it's 29th is Peacock trolled me and said the Giants are taking the Redskins' 29th pick.
Yep. Mike made a good dad joke, and he called the Jets' offensive line the Cup because they were protecting the dick.
Love it.
That was this joke.
Yeah.
And the final 2, Mike said the Giants are a better offense without Saquon Barkley and a playoff team with a healthy Daniel Jones.
Oh, brutal. Brutal.
You know what the best thing is, though, and we all walked back, by the way, the comments about Deion last year in Colorado. We all said we were wrong.
Yeah.
So we will say we're wrong. We'll laugh at us being wrong. We're not going to be Mel Kiper and melt down because we were wrong.
No.
This is the funniest thing I've ever heard. This is great.
And the last one Mike said was, and who are the Vikings to think that they're going to make the playoffs with Sam Darnold as quarterback?
Who are the media say the Giants are going to pick third? These fuckers.
Yeah.
It
What a
was
bunch of
so.
bastards.
So nonetheless, doesn't matter. We can be right, we can be wrong, we can admit when we're wrong, but it was really funny, and that was the recap from the 2024 draft recap of Three Angry Giant Fans and a Jet Fan podcast.
It was a recrap too. That was a big recrap.
Did I say recap? It was a recrap.
Yeah. So Mike changes the background.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I did that once, and I had listeners say I was disappearing in the background. They didn't like
yours
it,
was
so.
too white.
So pet peeves. I know we throw these pods together. So anyone want to go first on pet peeves? You want me to go first? What's the preferred method here? I know Cardone's not here, so I'll actually go because I have two. So the first will be about the draft itself. So I was actually traveling last week, and I was in the Pensacola airport waiting to get on a plane to come home when the draft was getting ready to take place. And so I was following a lot of the draft on Yahoo. So on Yahoo, they have now given draftees traits, like it's a video game, almost like it's Madden. So you go on there, and Cam Ward's selected, and under his draft write-up, he's got the traits of trick shot artist, and howitzer. So apparently he's got a very strong arm, and the guy can do tricks or something like that. Abdul Carter, first round pick of the Giants. He's got traits too. His traits are Gumby and Rocket. Now, to me, Gumby is a fucking fictional character. It's not a trait, but he's actually a piece of gum. And like, was he David and Goliath? I can't remember what Gumby's from. He's from something. And then, so I looked at the Jets' first round pick too. So Armand Mabu, his trait is dancing bear. So it's like now we don't just have players. We're giving them video game traits like it's freaking Madden 25 or something. It's like what is going on here? You can't just draft a guy and have him be the player. Now hey guys, look at Cam Ward. He's activated his howitzer.
Yeah, we are real close to professional announcers referencing Madden ratings. Fans already do it.
Yeah.
But we're right there. We're right there, to hear one of these talking heads one day say, "Oh, you're talking about trading and this guy's a 97 in Madden rating." I mean, we're not far. We're not far from that.
He's a rocket. He's a rocket coming off the ball.
He's got the rocket trait. He's a dancing bear.
And guys, this feeds into. I think we probably talked about this last year too, Novak. But the whole media circus around the draft. I mean, it's like you bring people in there, they honor people that have fallen. It sort of reminded me. I'm not going to make this religious or anything like that, but when the Pope passed away, they had a bunch of people staying outside where he was laid to rest. The poor and the downtrodden. It's like, how did they even find? Hey guys, any poor people want to show up here? I mean, I don't even know how you cast call that kind of thing. I mean, like that. That's what it reminds me about the draft. The draft has people just come on stage, and they honor them and they go on with the next pick. And there's musical acts before the draft, and it's such a shit show these days. It's like, just get to it.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I checked in on the draft on day 3 a couple of times. I couldn't sit through all of that. But one time they had that, like, some content creator, some guy who's like a social media guy, screaming about he was a Broncos fan, and you can tell he knew nothing about sports, and he's popping off about Terrell Davis. I'm like, what is this? What have we become? It's so stupid. I mean, every next one was stupid, and it's so obvious that Goodell picks these, like, the disabled kid or the veteran when the Vikings or the Lions are picked, so he doesn't get booed. Like, stop it. Like, just stop with this draft. It was so bad. And you're right, Scott. All of this stuff that is now around it and traits. Give me a break.
Yeah, the trait thing. Well, and then my second pet peeve, and this, we didn't get a chance to go on the air after the NCAA basketball tournament, but the media, it goes back to the media. It's the same thing they did with Tim Tebow. They did the same thing with Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg played for Duke, And you would have thought that the tournament was the Cooper Flag show. Everyone talked about Cooper Flag. He wasn't even playing in games. And they're going, oh, Cooper Flag, you got to look at his play at Duke and what's going on. Meanwhile, there was a guy on a team that won a ring called Walter Clayton Jr. I don't know how many people heard of Walter Clayton Jr. because they were talking about Cooper Flag. This guy carried Florida on his back, made clutch play after clutch play, and yet when the chips were down for Duke and Cooper Flag had to make a play, he choked.
He choked.
And we didn't talk about that. We talked about Duke letting down Cooper Flag. And no one ever really talked about Walter Clayton Jr., who to me was the most impressive player in that tournament, who actually won a ring, or whatever the trophy is. Maybe it's not a ring, but he won that. And yet we weren't talking about William Clayton Jr. in the middle of a Duke, someone else game, but we're talking about Cooper Flag in the middle of a Florida Houston game. It's the same thing with Tim Tebow and other guys. The media attention on these players is so excessive that we grow to hate them. I should love Cooper Flag. I should think Cooper Flag's, a guy, does nothing wrong. He's a good basketball player, great basketball player, going to be in the NBA. I don't like the guy because the media is overwhelmingly pro Cooper Flag. They did the same thing with Zion Williamson. Guy blew out a shoe on the court. They made it sound like his feet were made out of kryptonite or something.
God, the shoe blowout. Forgot all about that. That was
fucking ridiculous. The guy can't stay healthy because his feet are too big, apparently. But it's like he blows out a shoe on the court. And we have to stop everything and make it sound like this is Andre the Giant.
2 weeks of media coverage on the shoe.
So those are my pet peeves.
Good one, Scott. Good ones. I'll go next. Mine's short and sweet, and I feel like I've used it before, but just sitting there watching the draft, right? It's like a waterfall of pet peeves. It's ridiculous. But the thing I took away this time, because it seemed like there were more than usual in the past, and it's the same thing you see during the Olympics and during tournaments and everything. They will miss content. They will miss things happening in the draft for a special interest story. And that's all there are. There's like 4 per round. And you just watch it and you think, my God, how many of these kids' mothers died tragically? It's one after the other after the other. And it's like he grew up with his grandparents, and his grandfather got killed in a drive-by shooting when he was delivering diapers for, just stop. Nobody cares. Now, if women are getting into the football, we have to, the media felt last year or the year before, like they've got to start catering to them. They're not watching the draft yet, guys. There's no women who brought their lunchbox and sat down and just said, I'm going to watch the draft for 3 days. Like that's a whole different other thing. That doesn't happen. We don't have to cater to the women for the draft. Let us continue to have our draft. For now, it probably won't be long, but yeah, just the constant special interest. And, I don't know if you guys remember the one from last year. I forget even who the player was, but remember they said that he slept on the floor when he got to Alabama or something. And then he's like, I didn't sleep on the floor. Like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Was it the guy, the running back, Najee Harris?
It was Najee.
I think it was Najee.
Yeah, Najee Harris,
I think it was Najee.
And they
Harris,
kept asking him about it, and finally he was like, "That didn't happen. It's not true."
Yeah, he grew up so poor he didn't have a bed. So when he got to Alabama, he slept on the floor of his dorm room because that's what he was used to. He's like, where does that come from? So that tainted me on all of I'm like, how much of these special interest stories are true? I mean, how much of this, extreme poverty, overcoming, mother died when he was 6.
It's every one. There's a story for every single guy drafted.
Yeah.
They could, if they really wanted to, they could find the story.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah.
Mike. It was
oh
my gosh,
They
it's
were
such a
doing
downer
that
on top of it. Like, why?
Yeah, it's
Should we
just
be
such a
excited for the
bummer.
guy?
Yeah.
They were even doing that for the guy for the Panthers. Like, he's doing this for the people in Hawaii.
Right.
What are you talking about?
I don't get it. I just don't get it. There's, to Novak's point, there's not one kid who just grew up in a 2-parent home, was really good at football, went to a big college and got drafted. There's not one of them that happened to.
No, nope. Seemingly not, because it was every single one.
Again, all goes back to the media with these pet peeves, doesn't it?
It really
does,
I mean,
which is,
I think if you went back and tracked our pet peeves for the 5 years, I probably 70% have something to do with the media.
well, I mean, my pet peeve was very similar to Mike's, but in a different sport. So I don't know if we want to segue, but I could go into mine because it's
Yeah,
the same,
roll right
exact
in.
one. So mine is the same exact one as Mike, but golf. Because the Masters this year was the best Masters I've seen in probably, I don't know, a
Fantastic.
decade. It was just phenomenal. The whole thing was just drama induced. It was great. And I have never been so annoyed about anything from a media standpoint, and that fucking Jim Nance with McIlroy walking up to 18. Did you hear this story? Rory, when he was a kid, his dad gave him a token and said, "We've only got money for 30 more balls." And Rory's like, and when Rory said, I want more, he said, "Just hit everyone like it's the last shot at the Masters." First of all, that never happened, man.
Guaranteed it never happened.
It absolutely never happened. And I guarantee if you asked McIlroy, did that really happen? He would be like, no, that never happened. And on top of it, why do we have to make it a human interest story? I want to know, I want Dottie Pepper on there talking about he's got a left to right break. He's going to be able, it's about 10 feet to win the Masters. It's an easy putt. He doesn't have, it's not in the shadows or like, give me something. I don't care about hitting balls into a washing machine was the other story. Like,
Rory, if you look back too, they have pictures of Rory McIlroy when he's like 9 playing golf. That's not a thing poor 9-year-olds do.
he wasn't in tatters and rags. He was in a golf hat.
Can I have
Bagger fans.
Can I have
Bagger
some
fans out there.
rules, sir? He's like Oliver Twist.
Yes, he's hitting balls with a stick. No, he actually had a set of clubs.
Please, sir, can you spare a penny?
That's awesome.
So
That's particularly funny, like you said, because it was the best Masters, and and coming up to 18, it's like just drama, just oozing out of the natural drama, out of the sport.
Drama. Yes.
And Nance is like, not enough drama. I gotta add more drama to this.
I gotta throw in some cheesy ass story that's untrue. Like,
It kind of ties back to what I was saying about Tebow too, though. The great thing about sports, and I think we would all agree about this, sports creates its own drama, its own ending, its own,
we don't need
you know,
Yep.
we don't need the other bullshit. We just want to watch the sport till the conclusion and congratulate the guy who did better than the other person. You know, I felt bad for Justin Rose because he's been a bridesmaid for so long, but at the same time, the drama spoke for itself. You didn't need additional commentary, and you didn't have to say when Rory made his last putt, and that's a masterful putt. You know,
masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece. You know, it's like fuck you.
That's so bad. So real quick, I want to give my second pet peeve, which has to do with the draft. These bro hugs these guys have to give Goodell when they come out on stage. Just go out and punch the guy in the face because it's like getting that violent. These bro hugs, like what are we doing? I mean, like they're slapping hands and hugging this guy and like breaking his bones. Like, stop it! You're gonna hate this guy in about 2 minutes. So just the bro hug thing with Goodell is getting out of control. Like, seriously, just go out, punch him in the face, and then just get your jersey and move on. That was driving me crazy too.
By the way,
there's guys that had pre-set up like secret club handshakes with Goodell.
Yeah.
Like they had to take time to talk to him and say, all right, here's the handshake. And he had to remember them all, I guess.
Yeah,
I do not hate Goodell like the rest of some of the NFL football fans do, because he plays to the crowd. He actually does. Like
he's like a wrestling bad guy.
He works with those guys. Like you said, Mike, he's got to remember exactly what that sequence of handshakes is, and he does. He's
Yeah,
pretty
but
damn good
at
about
the
it.
same time, those hugs, he's thinking this guy's going to make me millions more.
I'm
Because
sure.
uh, Goodell doesn't bother me too much either. It's getting to be a little bit too much. Just get up there, shake his hand, and get your fucking jersey and move on.
We've come from the days of Pete Rozelle just chain smoking cigarettes during the draft. All people
Still miss the draft. I still miss the old draft, man.
I
That
know.
was
That was the best. The helmet phones. We
Yeah.
talked about it every year. The helmet phones, the armpit stains, and the cigarettes.
Yep.
Get
Just
back to that.
You need
chain
a
smoking
guy.
cigarettes.
You need a
Yep.
guy with a lot of nervous energy smoking a cigarette. This is
Yeah.
a perfect time for the cigarette.
Yeah.
It's the draft.
Yeah, he's
you
got
know?
a dress shirt on, but like the sleeves are rolled up to the elbows, and there's a sweat around the collar. And he's got it 2 buttons down. He's chain smoking.
He's flipping through papers instead of like swiping on a giant
Yeah.
screen about the,
Yeah.
When they show like the moon landings and things like that, everyone in that control room in NASA is chain smoking.
Yeah.
They're
Very nerve wracking stuff, man.
I wanted to talk about golf when Novak brought up the Masters, but my wife's cousin had a shirt on the other day of the Atlanta Drive, and I don't know if you guys caught the golf league this year. I think it was only 4 teams that played in it, but it was like half a simulation, half real golf. I was captivated by this, and it happened to be because I was traveling a lot during this, so I would turn on like ESPN or ESPN2 or whatever was on like on a Tuesday night. And I'd be able to watch golf for 3 hours, and guys are kicking back and having fun. I had a great time with this league. I now want some gear from either the New York team or one of those teams. It could add to my hat collection.
I didn't think it was that bad. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was something different.
Yeah.
Football season's over. I thought it was good.
I didn't watch a second of it, but I've a lot of people. No, I just didn't. But a lot of people like it. I work with and know they're like, "Have you been watching this? This is pretty cool."
Yeah. So we do have some questions. Peacock, by the way, I got to call out Peacock because this guy
Right.
was a cock on draft night because he texted me that the Giants were trading with Washington for the 29th pick, and
Was that before or after?
this was before we picked Dart. So this was like at pick 10, and I'm thinking to myself, why would they pick back to 29 at pick 10? Why wouldn't they wait till 28 and then pick to 29?
Especially when they've got pick 33.
And then he gives me some bullshit excuse about there being an internet rumor that they gave up Tibbs, next year's first rounder and a third rounder. So it was some ridiculous amount. I was like, oh Jesus, I'm getting I'm sitting there searching for information first off to make sure that this was legit. Wasn't finding any, and so he was just stirring the pot. So
I did hear a rumor that the Giants tried to trade Thibodeau and some draft picks to Carolina at some point.
I
did hear that rumor.
The Giants tried to trade up to number 1 with
that's what it was.
With 2 number 1 picks.
2 number 1s and Thibodeau or something like that.
And the Titans turned them down.
Yeah.
But Peacock does he poses this to Mike, and Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a loaded question because there's factually incorrect, and it's factually incorrect in what he's saying, and I will correct him if you can't. So he said, "Can Giant Mike name the 4 quarterbacks the Giants have drafted in the first round?"
That's what's factually incorrect probably is that Eli's on the list, and the Giants did not draft Eli. Is that the factually incorrect?
No. There's actually been more than 4, but I'll let you just keep going. Just go with the 4 you know.
Yeah, so it's Sims, Jones. They didn't draft Eli, but he's a first round guy. I don't think I know any others.
What about this year?
Well, okay, this year, Dart. All right, I'm thinking about in the past. Yeah, but so who's?
You have Sims, Jones, Dart, and what would the other one be?
Eli.
Manning.
Okay. Well, I think he's trying to trip you up because we technically picked Rivers, and then traded.
Oh, Rivers. That's actually kind of a good question. But we did draft Phillip Rivers in the first round. That happened. But
we also drafted Travis Tidwell in 1958, which he didn't know in the first round. We drafted Sims in 79. We drafted Rivers in 04, Jones in 19, Dart in 25, and we also drafted Lee Grosscup in 59.
Lee Grosscup.
Lee Grosscup. Every Giant fan knows Lee Grosscup.
Yeah, I got to break out my Grosscup jersey.
So I think he was trying to trip you up on the whole Eli.
Yeah, no,
Rivers
that was
thing.
good because I sniffed it out, but I still didn't give the right answer. Because we did actually draft Philip Rivers. That's actually factually correct. Yeah.
Didn't you technically draft Dave Brown? First
No,
round.
he was a
supplemental draft.
He was a
compensatory.
supplemental draft. I think he
Yeah.
was a third rounder, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was
Dave
first in
Brown.
the supplemental draft.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was a first round, but in the supplemental draft, I don't even know if they do the supplemental draft anymore. But that thing was always backwards.
It was.
So he also asks, how patient are we going to be with Dart? Are we expecting him to start year one? Are we bringing him in if we're having a bad year? What do you think is going to happen? And I'll answer this first. I think right now the Giants have both Winston and Wilson, and I don't know how they're going to run with this. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I think with the defensive line being fairly dominant now, I would have liked, we didn't mention this earlier. I would have liked to have gotten a wide receiver in the draft or maybe another defensive back higher up than the 7th round. But that being said, I think the Giants are going to run with those guys. Let Dart develop. Dart comes in maybe next year. But I think they'll be very patient with him. I think the Giants will let the season play out the way it would.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what he shows in camp and preseason. That will depend on how, if he's just lighting it up, it's going to be very difficult to be patient. But I think the Giants go into this thing kind of like the Kurt Warner-Eli situation. And basically that is Dart starts the season as the number 3 quarterback. As long as we're in contention, it's Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And if Russell gets hurt, it'll be Jameis Winston. But maybe later in the year, we're out of contention, officially out of contention later in the year, that Dart could finish out the year. That's what I'm thinking is the scenario I'd probably like to see most in my head. I wouldn't hate what Scott just said either. If they just say, nope, he's on the bench, he's developing, he's not going to get in the game unless of an emergency.
I honestly think, and that maybe it's just a little cynical, I think it depends on how you're losing. Because don't forget, Daboll and Shane were given the edict, you got to win now. And if you guys are getting your asses handed to you like you did last year, and you're 1 or 2-7, and everyone's screaming for Daboll to be fired, that's their last chance to keep the job. And I think they're going to put Dart in there at that point. So sadly, and I think that's the risk you run with having a rookie quarterback with a regime that's on ice. Is they're going to use that as their last hand to play if their job's on the line. So that's a tough spot. Now, that might not happen, but if it does, I could see him playing earlier than you might think.
Yeah, I could see that too. I
Absolutely.
do think I think it's going to be a fluid situation here with what happens, and let's keep in mind the Giants on paper have a tough schedule this year. They very well could be in that situation where they have a lot of losses and they're turning around trying to figure out what to do. Peacock has one last question. It's sort of dovetailing another question from our friend Ingrid. So Peacock asks, is Carter going to wear number 56? And then our friend Ingrid asks, is he going to wear number 11, knowing that Penn State linebackers like number 11? As we know as Giant fans, 56 is held by Lawrence Taylor. Number 11 is held by Phil Simms. Now, what I heard is that Carter asked Taylor if he could have 56, and Taylor said, young man, I think you should forge your legacy with your own number. Pick a number and then make your own legacy. I don't know what Phil Simms would say about number 11. I'm not opposed to that idea, but I liked LT's answer. It's like, look, guy, go out and make your legacy with the Giants your own, and beat Carter number 00 or whatever it is.
Of course, the media is trying to blow that out of the water. That is a nothing burger with LT. A reporter asked him what number he wanted to wear, and he was kind of laughing, and he said, I don't know, 56 sounds pretty good. And then the media went bananas, and LT even tweeted out like, "Nope, that's not." Like, no, I don't even think he was being serious when he said that. If he wants to wear 11, that's up to Sims. I see Sims as the kind of guy who would let him. But who, pick a number. I agree with that. Just pick a number. Just doesn't matter. Go pick a number. Make it famous.
You guys got anything else tonight?
Well, I saw right before we came on tonight, I saw a post by a random nobody on Twitter, but they were like, "Hey, if you're going to buy Shadur Sanders Browns gear, like don't buy it from the Browns website. Buy it from Shador's legendary site because the NFL cost him $40 million and let's help him get it back."
What?
But why are we responsible
God.
for helping him get it back? Like,
Get what back? He's probably still worth millions of dollars, and he's only 22 years old. Get out of here.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about this is his mother actually went to high school in Elmira. So
really?
Shadur's mother is Pilar Sanders, who married Dion. And I went to school with her sister. I think it was Candy Biggers. But anyway, she's from Elmira. I wasn't sure it was I wasn't sure his kids were hers until I looked it up today. But yeah, sure enough, there's a tie there to Elmira. And I still think this is a lot of Dion's doing. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the balls. And it's not so much, who's the one that plays for the Panthers? He's doing okay, or not the Panthers, the Hornets, who's doing okay, LaMelo. But the rest of the balls, no one knows about. And that's I made the comment earlier. He's like Bronny James, and he really is. He doesn't have the talent to be at the top tier of the league. I don't believe.
No.
And this could be one that we look back and we say, Scott was completely off his rocker and he was terrible. But we have been pretty good about diagnosing these kind of things. We've done it with Justin Fields. We've done it with a couple other people. And we're being gaslit all over the place by this. And I don't understand why people will put a stake in the ground for Shadur Sanders before he's even played it down. Who else gets that invested in a player before they've played it down to say they're going to be great? I can't remember. Yeah. People talk about his fall being historic. I can't remember a time people have been so willing to go out on a limb talking about how great a guy is before he's actually proven it.
He plays for the Cleveland Browns. So there's going to be losing. There's going to be ridiculous, crazy things that happen with him. And Dion's got all the ammo he needs because he plays for the Browns. I mean, write this one down for next year, Novak. During the course of this year, we will all understand why he slid into the 5th round. Because Dion's gonna make it throughout the course of this year, interfering with the team, blaming the team. Shador was not shy to blame his own teammates at Colorado. It's another reason I think he slipped is because of that sort of attitude. But as this year goes on and Cleveland is losing, first of all, if Shador is not playing, then it will be Dion going nuts on all the socials. Why is he getting in the games? This is crazy. And if he is playing and they're losing, then it will be everyone but Shadur's fault. And you'll see it. You'll see it play out live. It's exactly what teams were afraid of. It's going to happen.
That's why the Browns are the Browns.
Yep.
I mean, and this is coming from a Jets fan, and I'm the most loserish franchise in all of sport. But I don't care what anyone says. I'm not the Browns, and the Jets are not the Browns. You just paid a guy a gazillion amount of dollars who said, I don't want to play for you. You have a guy that's, got massages where, the Deshaun Watson thing, and you're going to go out and you're going to get the most polarizing player in the draft. After this is when you should be we got to stop with these bad decisions after bad decisions. Johnny Manziel, we can go on for days about the Browns. And They're going to go out and get Shador Sanders the pick after they just got another quarterback. Who does that? I mean, has that ever happened in the history? No one has said anything. In the history of the draft, has there been 2 consecutive quarterbacks taken from a team? Forget the rounds, but they picked one and the next pick was another quarterback, I think. Unless there was one in between, I don't know. even still, I know that the Redskins did it with Cousins and Griffin, but that was pick one in round 5 or 6 or whatever it was. It's ridiculous. Who does that?
Yep. The Browns. I mean, the Browns should be doing what you said the Jets are doing, Novak. The Browns should be like, cut Deshaun Watson, nothing to do with Shador. We're going to go low on the radar for a little while and fix this stuff from the ground up.
No one with a checkered past, no one with any red flags. Let's just get like a scatterbo type guys. Like that's the exact thing they should be doing, and they didn't. So that's why they
doubled down.
Again. Yep.
All right. You guys got anything else?
Nope. Just good luck, Cardone. I hope there's not much chaos going on, and good luck with your move. And he will, to our listeners, he will be on the schedule release pod because that's his favorite pod of the year.
Oh gosh, he loves the schedule release. Yeah, he's big on that.
So I hope
it's not good. So I hope he goes crazy on that one.
That may be the next pod that we're back on is a schedule release pod. So in the off season, we do these intermittent pods. When I look back at it last year, the season's 18 games, 18 weeks, so 17 games. And I think we had 32 pods. So we did quite a few. We did a couple preseason, we did a couple in camp, and then we did quite a few in the postseason. So
all the way through. Yep.
We're getting up there in the number of pods we do. Now, we don't do them weekly in the off season because you guys don't want to listen to us drone on about random shit. No. But these are fun. I love doing the draft pod. We're probably gonna look back next year. We're gonna have made more stupid comments, and Shador Sanders is gonna be the NFL MVP, and we're gonna make us all eat our words. But you never know.
God no. One thing I forgot to mention that I did want to get out there is when the season ended, I think we all agreed for the Giants' sake that there were 3 bullets we had to dodge in this offseason. Oh, and they were Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and Shador Sanders. We did it. We made it. Now, a bullet nicked Novak. He got the Fields.
What do you mean it nicked me? I took a bullet for you. What are you talking about? I stepped in front of that bullet like a Social Security or a Secret Service guy.
Secret Service agent.
So, like Novak said, though, our next pod might be the schedule release. We'll keep you up to date on the socials. We'll let you know. But again, season 6. This is like technically the second pod in season 6. Support our sponsors, Rugged Uncle and the Carolina Beer Temple if you're in the Matthews or the Charlotte area. We will be giving out news about our live pod, and looking forward to season 6. Season 6 we've hit our stride. I think season 6 is where the Giants and Jets turn shit around.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't just
optimism,
keep doing a podcast about terrible football.
Oh my God,
we're going to run out of material.
We did the recap for this pod. Wait till we do the recap of the live pod where we all were on record just throwing shit on the Carolina Panthers.
We did so bad. Well, we were kind of right for a lot of it. Let's be honest.
They still had a better record than both of our teams,
and they beat us.
They beat you guys. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll catch you guys on the flip side. This has been 3 Angry Giant Fans and a Jet Fan. We're minus Cardone, but look forward to seeing you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.